MrBeast's most expensive check-in ever. A black limousine glided smoothly to the entrance of the Regal Imperial, one of the most exclusive and luxurious hotels in New York. The impeccably dressed doorman opened the door, expecting a celebrity or a magnate to step out. But to his surprise, the man who emerged was wearing a worn-out hoodie, a cap, and simple sneakers. Jimmy Donaldson, better known as MrBeast, grabbed his backpack and looked up at the towering building. He was used to luxury hotels, but this one was different. He had booked the presidential suite, the most expensive one in the hotel, to film a new video. "I stayed in the world's most expensive suite." He entered the lobby, a masterpiece of marble and gold, with a massive crystal chandelier hanging from the ceiling. The place exuded exclusivity, and its guests were billionaires, royalty, and elite business people. MrBeast walked up to the reception desk, where a tall, slim man with an arrogant expression eyed him with disdain. His name was Arthur Wellington, the head concierge of the hotel. He was known for fawning over wealthy clients and looking down on anyone who didn't seem important. Arthur adjusted his perfectly tailored suit and gave Jimmy a skeptical look. "May I help you?" he asked, making no effort to hide his contempt. "Hey! I have a reservation for the presidential suite." The name should be under Jimmy Donaldson, but it might be listed as MrBeast. Arthur raised an eyebrow and typed something into the computer. His eyes widened slightly when he saw the reservation, but he quickly masked his reaction. Are you sure you're at the right hotel, sir?" Jimmy chuckled, thinking it was a joke. "Yeah. This is the place. Also, I'd like to film a video about my experience here." Arthur pursed his lips. "Sir, this hotel does not allow public filming without prior authorization. Also, you need to ensure you can cover the costs of the suite." "No problem, I can pay right now." He pulled out his unlimited black card and handed it over. Arthur took the card with disdain, inspecting it as if it were fake. "One moment, sir. I need to verify something." He typed slowly into the system, taking longer than necessary just to annoy him. Jimmy noticed the game. He had dealt with skepticism before, but Arthur was going overboard. Arthur then looked up with a forced smile. "It seems your card has been declined, sir. Perhaps you should try another, or consider a more affordable establishment." A few people in the lobby turned to look. Jimmy frowned. "That doesn't make sense. Do you want me to make a transfer?" Arthur crossed his arms. "A transfer of this amount could take days to process. I think it's best to avoid any embarrassment and find another accommodation." Jimmy sighed, pulled out his phone, and opened his banking app. He showed the screen to Arthur, revealing a balance of over $100 million. "Is this enough?" Arthur blinked a few times, clearly surprised, but quickly regained his composure. It seems there was a system error. I'll process your check-in now." He typed into the computer and reluctantly handed over the key card for the presidential suite. "Here you go, Mr. Donaldson. I hope you enjoy your stay, without disturbing the other guests." Jimmy took the card and smiled. No worries. But inside, he was already planning his revenge. MrBeast's plan. MrBeast sat on the balcony of the Regal Imperial's presidential suite, staring at the breathtaking view of New York City. But instead of enjoying the scenery or relaxing, he was restless. The humiliation at the reception still echoed in his mind. He was an vengeful person, but he despised injustice, and Arthur Wellington, the arrogant concierge, clearly needed a lesson. Carl, Chris, and Chandler, his friends and team members, sat around the marble table in the suite, waiting for Jimmy to say something. He grabbed a bottle of water, took a sip, and then broke the silence. "Guys, I think we need to change today's video." Chris frowned. "What do you mean?" "We were just going to showcase the hotel and do a last-to-leave challenge in the presidential suite." Jimmy grinned. "Change of plans. I want to buy the entire hotel for a day." Chandler's eyes widened. "What? Are you serious?" Serious, Jimmy replied, crossing his arms. I want to turn this hotel into the best place in the world for everyone, except for one person. Carl laughed. Dude, I already love this. But how do you plan to buy an entire hotel, even if it's just for a day? Jimmy pulled out his phone and started typing quickly. First, I'm calling my bank. He put the call on speaker. Hello, Mr. Donaldson. How can I assist you today? I need to make a big transaction. A really big one. I want to book the entire Regal Imperial for 24 hours. There was a brief silence on the other end. Sir, you do realize this is one of the most expensive hotels in the world, right? Jimmy chuckled. Yes, and I can afford it. What would the price be to rent every suite and service for a day? The bank asked for a few minutes to calculate. While they waited, Chris leaned forward. If this works, what exactly do you want to do? Jimmy grinned. First, I want to make sure every employee is treated like royalty. I want to give out massive tips because these guys work hard. Carl nodded. That's fair. A lot of hotel workers are underpaid, even in luxury places. Exactly. Jimmy said. I want to change that for a day. Every employee is going to make more money today than they would in months. And the guests? Chandler asked. Well, Jimmy scratched his chin. I think it'd be fun to do something unexpected. Like, anyone staying here today won't have to pay a single cent. Chris's eyes widened. That's going to cost millions. I know. But imagine the impact. They'll remember this forever. Okay, and what about Arthur? Carl asked, laughing. Are you leaving him out of the tips? Jimmy smirked. Not just that. I'm going to give him a lesson he'll never forget. Before he could explain his plan, the phone rang again. Mr. Donaldson? We've done the calculations. To reserve the entire Regal Imperial for 24 hours, covering all suites, services, and staff, the cost will be $20 million. Chandler's eyes nearly popped out of his head. 20 million? Jimmy didn't hesitate. Done. Transfer the money now. The bank confirmed the transaction, and within minutes, Jimmy officially had control of the hotel for a day. Chris ran a hand down his face. Dude, you just spent 20 million like it was pocket change. Jimmy shrugged. If it's to change a lot of people's lives and teach a well-deserved lesson, it's worth every penny. Carl clapped his hands. So, what's the next step? Jimmy grabbed his phone again. Now, I'm calling hotel management. He dialed a number and waited. After a few seconds, a formal voice answered. This is Thomas Everly, CEO of Regal Hotels. Who am I speaking with? Hey, Thomas, this is MrBeast. I just rented out your entire hotel for a day, and I need to make a few special changes. Mr. Donaldson. Yes, your transaction has been processed. How can we assist you? Jimmy smiled. First, I want all employees to receive big bonuses today. I want to hand out tens of thousands of dollars in tips. That can be arranged, Thomas replied, impressed. Anything else? Yes. I need you to give me the authority to fire any employee during these 24 hours. There was silence on the other end of the line. Are you serious? Completely. But relax, I only have one name on my list. Thomas hesitated for a moment and then responded. Well, considering the size of your booking, we can make an exception. Jimmy grinned. Perfect. Now, let's make this happen. He hung up and turned to his friends. Guys, get the cameras ready. We're about to turn this hotel into a place of absolute happiness. Chris laughed. And for Arthur? Jimmy pulled a $1 coin from his pocket and flipped it in the air. The only person leaving here empty-handed is him. MrBeast's payback. The Regal Imperial lobby was busy, but something felt different. Employees whispered among themselves, casting surprised glances at the hotel's speakers. Some guests were curious, while others, used to luxury and discretion, simply frowned. Arthur Wellington, the head concierge, adjusted his tie, annoyed by the commotion. He hated any kind of disorder or unexpected change. Order and exclusivity were the golden rules of this hotel, and anything outside of that irritated him deeply. Then, the hotel speakers turned on. "Attention, guests and staff of the Regal Imperial." A voice echoed through the lobby, capturing everyone's attention. "For today, this hotel belongs to MrBeast." Arthur felt a chill run down his spine. "What?" The hotel manager, Mr. Caldwell, hurried to the front desk, his face pale. "Arthur, we need to talk. Now." "What's going on?" Arthur demanded, already sensing that something was very wrong. Before the manager could respond, MrBeast entered the lobby triumphantly, holding a megaphone. His filming crew was already in position, capturing every moment. "Ladies and gentlemen, today, absolutely everything in this hotel is free." The silence was broken by a mix of suspense and excitement. Some guests exchanged surprised looks, while the employees stared at each other, confused. "That's right," Jimmy continued. "Rooms, meals, spa treatments, drinks, everything is on the house." Guests murmured among themselves. Some, who had paid small fortunes for their stay, didn't know whether to be outraged or thrilled. Arthur felt his patience snap. "This is ridiculous," he exclaimed, turning to the manager. "This lunatic is ruining the entire system." Mr. Caldwell cleared his throat. "Arthur, actually, he bought the hotel for the entire day." Arthur blinked several times. "What?" "He made a deal with corporate and already paid. For today, he has full control over the Regal Imperial." Arthur went pale. Meanwhile, Jimmy walked up to the front desk, stopping right in front of Arthur. He leaned his elbows on the counter and smiled. "Hey, Arthur. Remember me?" Arthur swallowed hard but maintained his arrogant stance. "Mr. Donaldson, I was just following hotel protocol." Jimmy let out a short laugh. "Oh, I understand. But I also have a protocol. It's called giving insane tips to employees who deserve them." Arthur frowned. "What do you mean?" Jimmy turned to the hotel staff and grabbed a microphone. "Everyone working in this hotel is getting an unbelievable bonus today. Housekeepers? Each gets $10,000. Doormen? $20,000 each. Chefs? $30,000 each. Manager? $50,000. The entire hotel erupted in cheers. Employees started clapping, and some even cried with happiness. Arthur's throat went dry. He looked around and saw expressions of shock and gratitude. Employees who had never been appreciated in their lives were now celebrating like they had won the lottery. Then, Jimmy turned to him. And for the head concierge, Arthur Wellington, he paused dramatically, pulling something from his pocket. Arthur held his breath. Was he about to receive a massive tip, too? Jimmy opened his hand and placed a $1 coin on the counter. The entire lobby went silent. Arthur stared at the coin, then at Jimmy, in disbelief. "W what?" Jimmy smiled. "That's right. You get $1. Buy yourself a coffee." The silence was broken by laughter from the staff and even some guests. The doormen glanced at each other, barely holding back their amusement. The restaurant chef shook his head, stunned. Arthur turned as red as a tomato. "This is humiliating." "No, Arthur," Jimmy replied, still smiling. "Humiliation was what you tried to do to me at check-in." Arthur clenched his fists. "You can't do this. I'm a respected employee of this hotel." That's when the manager cleared his throat and stepped forward. "Arthur, you're fired." Arthur froze. "What?" Mr. Donaldson has full control of the hotel today, and he requested the authority to dismiss problematic employees. Arthur's face twisted in shock and outrage. This is outrageous. I'll sue you. Jimmy picked up the $1 coin and placed it in Arthur's palm. With this, you can start your legal fund. The lobby burst into laughter. Arthur looked around, realizing that no one was on his side. The manager, his co-workers, the guests, they were all happy to see him go. With his dignity in shambles, he grabbed his briefcase and stormed out of the hotel, fuming. Jimmy watched as Arthur disappeared through the front doors. Then, he grabbed the megaphone again. Now, let's make this the best day ever. And just like that, the Regal Imperial turned into a festival of joy, surprises, and generosity for everyone except one man. The hotel's best day ever. With Arthur Wellington gone, the atmosphere completely transformed. What was once a place of extreme formality was now filled with laughter, applause, and contagious energy. Employees and guests looked at each other, still processing what had just happened. MrBeast grabbed the megaphone again. Now that the problem is solved, let's get the real fun started. Guests, who were initially skeptical, began to get excited. After all, who would turn down a free day in a luxury hotel? Carl and Chris handed out golden envelopes to guests in the lobby. Jimmy smiled. Inside these envelopes are surprise prizes. Some will win exclusive dinners, others will get free spa treatments, and some will even walk away with cash. A sophisticated woman in a fur coat opened her envelope hesitantly. Her eyes widened. $50,000? The lobby exploded in cheers and applause. That's right, Jimmy said. Today, we're changing people's lives just because we can. Hotel employees, who were once overlooked by wealthy guests, were now the stars of the day. At the five-star restaurant, Chef Pierre was still in shock. MrBeast, I don't know how to thank you, he said, holding his $30,000 tip. It's simple, Pierre, Jimmy laughed. How about preparing a free feast for everyone? Pierre saluted like a soldier. With pleasure. The day continued with crazy contests, luxurious gifts, and non-stop surprises. And before it all ended, Jimmy had one final announcement. Before we wrap up this amazing day, I have one last surprise. He pulled out a special envelope. Luis Ramirez, a doorman here, has been chosen for something special. Luis, a middle-aged man, widened his eyes. Me? That's right. You've worked here for over 20 years, always treated everyone with kindness, and never got the recognition you deserved. Well, starting now, you don't have to work anymore. Jimmy handed him a $1 million check. Luis trembled, tears streaming down his face. Is this real? Absolutely, my friend. Now, you can retire or do whatever you want with this money. The entire lobby erupted in applause. Some guests even wiped away tears. And just like that, MrBeast changed countless lives in a single day. Jimmy grabbed the microphone one last time. And that's how we wrap up the best day in this hotel's history. Thank you all, and see you next time. The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. MrBeast's video broke viewership records, but the impact of that day went far beyond the internet. Employees felt valued, guests gained unforgettable stories, and a certain former front desk attendant learned a lesson he would never forget. And so, the Regal Imperial was never the same again.